This week on the Orange Box Podcast, we talk about the Steam controllers potentially releasing very soon, Game Pass potentially getting a price revision, GTA 6 potentially coming to PC sooner than expected, and more. All of this tonight, but first, on to the new Beautiful Bean intro. Welcome to the place where PC and console gaming talk combine. This is the Orange Box Podcast, episode 132. I am your host, the man whose real-life ray tracing disappears when he turns his head, Nathan, also known as the Frozen Gamer 87. And joining me, as always, the man who will come knocking at your door, but politely, to make sure you are not playing at 30 FPS, Justin, better known as I Am Zaracon. How you doing today? How's your week been?
All right, so it's been a good week. Saturday, I spent some time just relaxing and doing what I was originally going to do last Sunday, which was to catch up on watch some, I guess you could say, Easter movies. So I first watched Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. That's something I haven't seen in years. And then later on, I watched 10 Commandments. Now, I only got through the first half because I had to take care of some stuff later on. And then also, you were doing your test stream. So I caught the second half of 10 Commandments the following day on Sunday. So that was good just to get back to watching those films. I also realized as I was just trying to just gauge some things in the market and whatnot, and I realized that I had completely messed up a future project I was going to do, and because I thought that the Steam machine had one type of GPU, which originally I thought was 960, but it turns out I was wrong, and that it had a GTX 860, so because I had purchased a 4GB 960 because I thought, I wonder if having the 4GB variant would have made a difference or not. But then I saw later on that no, it didn't actually have 960 but an 860. So I realized, yeah, that throws my entire thesis out the window. So I think I'm trying to decide if I want to just completely scrap the project or if I just might say, you know what, let's just see hypothetically if Valve had gone ahead and just used this hardware instead, which released the same year that the Steam machine released, or at least that model released. So maybe hypothetically it could have worked, but I'll decide if I want to make that video or not later on. But good to know now before I say something stupid on camera. Yeah. And then lastly, my sister and my niece-nephew paid me a visit earlier today. So they spent some time. The kids were very happy to see me. We played with some Legos together. Both of the kids made me some cards, and then we had some dinner together. So it was a good time that we spent together. And yeah, and then they're trying to also say, so when are you gonna come over? I'm like, I don't know. But yeah, it was a good time. But yeah, that's everything that's happened this past week.
Nice. Well, I'm glad that you figured out the hardware stuff before you put out that video, because could have been how embarrassing. But yeah, cool. Not a whole lot on my end in terms of general events, other than the fact that I was very sick last week. And well, when I say very sick, I just mean compared to usual. Like, so, you know, on Tuesday I wasn't quite sure, or no, I guess it was Monday we recorded, wasn't it? Anyway, I wasn't quite sure if I was getting sick or not. But then Tuesday my throat was feeling awful. And Wednesday, I was definitely really feeling pretty terrible. Thursday it had like moved a bit so that it was like more just in my sinuses, and then by Friday I was feeling a lot better. not got completely recovered, but basically well enough to where I didn't feel sick anymore. It was just more like my head's full of snot and, that usual kind of thing, scratchy throat, things like that, but not nearly as bad. So there was that. But because I was feeling so bad on Wednesday, we ended up not going to see Mario Galaxy that day, and instead did it on Thursday. I got off work about at 3 o'clock, and we went to the our local theater. It's a B&B theater, so it has recliner seats and stuff, and they have like a restaurant and a bar there. I mean, we didn't take advantage of either the restaurant or the bar. We just got a couple small popcorns and some waters, and then went and sat in the theater. And it was nice because there was only one other family in the whole theater, because we went at like 3:30 in the afternoon, so it was quiet. And yeah, we all enjoyed the movie. The kids definitely enjoyed it a lot. It's one where I'm like, in some ways I kind of liked the first movie better, but it's probably just because the first movie felt a little more fresh and like it was more written for the adults, whereas the second movie felt more like it was written for the kids. And I mean, it was still enjoyable. I still liked it. I appreciated the fact that they, and this isn't a spoiler, but they toned down the girl bossery from Peach by quite a lot. I mean, it's still there to a degree, but not nearly to the same extent. And because of the fact that this is not the beginning of Mario's hero's journey, he and Luigi were actually competent. Whereas, the first movie, obviously, it's like they had to become competent, and it wasn't until like right at the end that they got to that point, but they were pretty much competent the whole time. One thing that I also want to say is, so I had found out a while ago that Donald Glover was going to be the voice of Yoshi. And at first I was thinking, man, Donald Glover, if you're not familiar with him, he's the actor who played Troy on Community. He also was, gosh, what was it's on the tip of my brain. It's like I know what I'm thinking of. He played Lando in the recent Han Solo movie.
Oh, yeah.
So when I heard that he was going to be the voice actor for Yoshi, I was a little worried that it was going to end up being something where like Yoshi's got a black man voice, and while I wouldn't necessarily be bothered by it, at the same time, it's also like, I mean, like, okay. I mean, it's kind of like if you played No More Heroes 3 and Jean had a black man's voice, the female cat had a black man's voice. That was hilarious. I thought that was hilarious that they did that. But yeah, so I was like, okay, like Donald Glover is good at what he does. If he can pull it off, it'll be fine. But he didn't do that at all. He just did Yoshi. And, you couldn't, of course, understand. But the best part, and I'm not gonna get into the full thing, but basically, there Mario and Luigi meet up with him, and this is like practically the very beginning of the movie. And they ask him, who he is, what's his deal, and basically, so it shows essentially a flashback of everything that happened after that end credit scene where you see the Yoshi egg in New York or in Brooklyn, and everything that happened to him. And so it's like he's telling the story to them, but of course they don't understand anything that he's saying. And the whole story is really great. I loved it. So, yeah. But anyway, the overall, I enjoyed the movie quite a bit, and had some good cameos. Nothing that felt like way out of place. Star Fox worked out well, and yeah, overall I enjoyed it. They crammed a lot in there, though. I mean, like the last movie was just lots of little Easter eggs here and there. This time it was just like cramming a bunch of stuff in there. But it when I say cramming a bunch of stuff, I don't mean like you can't like it's just, hey, here I am, hey, here I am, and all these random cameos. It's more like just lots of stuff in the background, but it's, I don't know, it's different this time around. The point is that it was pretty well done. I enjoyed it overall, but That's pretty much it for me.
I'm definitely glad you enjoyed. I'm definitely glad you felt better and were able to go see the film. I have one question that I would like to ask you, but I really feel like that would be spoiling things. I mean, if it's not, even if I've said like, in a spoiler-free way, I kind of feel like that's something I might want to know myself just going into it, which would be if my theory could possibly be correct, as I mentioned, sort of like last week about, hey, could this be setting up something? But I feel like
there was no teaser for a Smash Brothers thing. I'll just put it that way.
Okay, or like any other type of film, perhaps. Like,
Not really. I mean, they basically just. Yeah, I don't think there was really a teaser for much of anything other than a character that'll show up in the next movie.
Okay. All right. Okay, yeah. So definitely glad you enjoyed it. I'll try to figure out when I might want to see it, and like I said, I know my nephew definitely wants to see it, so I'll mention something about that, like, hey, when do you think what's the schedule look like and whatnot. But yeah, definitely glad you enjoyed it.
All right. Well, we got some games to talk about this week. I know that your list, at least from what you sent me, is pretty short. My list is pretty long, even though there's not necessarily a lot of time spent in those games. But why don't you start us off? What have you been playing?
All right. So first thing that I've been playing has been Marvel Cosmic Invasion. Now, this is a game that I had been looking forward to last year. I was like, yeah, this looks great. Looks like a very good, fun beat 'em up. And I found out that a buddy of mine, he had also been interested in the game, and he didn't know that I was interested in the game, so it turned out pretty well. So, we got I bought the game, he got the game, and so we started the game up together last week and started playing through it, and it is just very fun. And I didn't even know it initially until probably after our session was over that it's made by the same people who made Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge.
Okay.
And because I thought there's so much here that feels very similar to the game, from the layout, some of the designs, to the UI, to just some of the controls. I said it feels very similar, and that makes sense. It's why, because it's made by the same team. So there's definitely that great level of quality there. Additionally, something that is different from Shredder's Revenge is the fact that rather than just controlling one character, you can actually control two characters and sort of switch between them as you play. So that's nice to have that sort of variety, especially if I guess also it sort of adds extra life, if you will, with being able to play through and just use different characters with different abilities as well, which can definitely help depending on who you're playing as. I think, or at least it feels like it might be shorter than Shredder's Revenge, or at least the main campaign, because we only played it together on Monday, just going through the campaign, and I think we only have about 3 levels left, and I think there might be 15 total, and if that's the case, it definitely I think that's definitely shorter than Shredder's Revenge. So it's pretty nice. I mean, there are special challenges you can do, and there are special collectibles to get, which honestly feels a bit easier than Shredder's Revenge in that sense with trying to get everything. I mean, of course, there's also an arcade mode too, and then as you unlock things, you can also add modifiers to arcade mode and possibly even the campaign, but I'm not certain about that one. But yeah, overall, it's pretty good. And I initially thought that I would be playing mainly as Spider-Man, Wolverine, or Captain America, but as we played through the session, I started playing more as Storm, and I just feel like her moveset was a whole lot better than I would have anticipated, and so I pretty much kept playing as her for the most part until I essentially maxed out her skill set. So I was like, all right, I found my new main right now,
Nice.
so I'm pleased with that. But yeah, so we're gonna try to finish up the campaign later this week, which, like I said, is just 3 levels. And then we'll probably try to get the rest of the challenge stuff and hidden collectibles and whatnot. But yeah, it's been very good, and I definitely think it's enjoyable if you liked Shredder's Revenge. But then I went back and played some more Castlevania Portrait of Ruin, and as I sort of hinted at last week, the final boss of Dracula and Death was very trying. I mean, they deal so much damage, and trying to avoid one of them sometimes leaves you open to getting attacked by the other, and you can definitely end up running out of health quickly, and even just making sure you have enough healing items as well, because I burned through potions like I don't know what. And after probably about 5 attempts, I said, you know what, I'm going to just take a pause here and try to do some grinding, but also there's an area called the Nest of Evil that unlocks if you clear enough of the map. And essentially what it is it's just not necessarily a boss rush, but it's just an area where as you progress, you clear rooms, and at the end of each section there's a boss from a previous Castlevania game, which I think mostly have been from Dawn of Sorrow, and maybe an older, maybe like Symphony of the Night. But I've been progressing through those a bit and just trying to grind up some stuff and just get a little stronger. Additionally, I've been doing some more of the quests as well, which one of them helps me unlock the cross, which I completely did not think about how much, or I didn't even realize that I didn't have that item. And I also realized that's a great weapon to have. So later on, after I was done with everything, I went back and I was spamming that thing during the fight with Death and Dracula, and it was definitely useful. And then once I finished, beating them, then there was a second phase, and that was really intense there, just because Dracula, he has an attack where he sends his wings out across the screen, and they act as fingers that try to close in on you, and if you don't hit them fast enough, they start to just crush you, and that almost killed me the first time. So I was just trying to spam potions, but then I realized, okay, but what I need to do is just spam crosses, so that way they'll attack one side of the screen, go back into the other side of the screen, and they'll just keep pushing back the fingers. So I kept spamming that, kept downing I can't remember what they're called, but essentially the it's tonics, that's what they are. I kept consuming tonics so that way I can keep spamming crosses, and then eventually I was able to beat Dracula and complete the game, and it was definitely great, and I enjoyed it. So I think overall it wasn't necessarily as long as I thought it would be, because while you do have a couple bosses in maybe about 3 general bosses in just the castle, most of the bosses will be in the different portraits that you face, and there are only 4 main portraits, and then there are sort of 4 other portraits, but those are just a smaller area based on the previous portraits that you were in, so it's nothing too different from what you've experienced before. So I wouldn't say it's overall a long game, but then after that I went ahead and started Richter mode, and oh man, Richter definitely feels a whole lot better than playing as Jonathan, and I think it's mainly just because due to the fact that, unlike Jonathan, you don't have access to the same stuff like being able to buy weapons. You can't buy potions, you can't do certain things. You can still level up, but I think because of your lack of versatility, they the game just boosts some of your stats, so you automatically, even if you're at a lower level, you're dealing more damage than Jonathan would be dealing ordinarily. So that definitely helps, and he also just moves faster. I think his sub weapons are also a whole lot better, or at least a lot stronger than Jonathan. So it definitely helps in that area as well. So I've made a little bit of progress there. I wasn't doing too much with that, but I just wanted to get a feel on that and see how far I can also go in there as well. And I do have to complete that for the one achievement, but I'll see what happens when I do that. I mean, I feel more inclined to finish this mode. I know I have to go back into Dawn of Sorrow and complete Julius mode, but I'm just not the biggest fan of Julius mode, just because I don't feel like I don't like being forced to have to play as a particular character. Whereas at least with Richter mode, sure, you have Maria that you also can play as, but you don't feel like you're being forced to play as Maria. You can switch between them, of course, but if you want to play as Richter primarily, you're pretty much free to do so. But then also, once I beat the game, I didn't realize that you can actually play as the sisters from the game as well.
Okay.
So just out of curiosity, I went ahead, and I don't know if that gameplay has popped up on the screen yet or not. But so you can play as them, and it is horrible. At least it's horrible playing this version. If you played it originally on the DS, it was probably better because it's based on touchscreen controls, and the touchscreen for this version is delegated to the right stick, and it just feels really awkward trying to move stuff around, especially if you're trying to play as Stella, who is supposed to be using a sword, and so you're trying to like slash stuff, and it's just weird. So it's better if you just be Loretta, because she just spams projectiles instead. So that was definitely better, but it's just still awkward overall, and then just having to constantly worry about your mana depleting just because you're trying to fly a little bit, and even just attack. I don't. It's not something I think I'll come back to. But overall, Portrait of Ruin is better than I initially started as I played it, but probably not as good as I had hoped originally. But it's still, I would say, a solid game overall, and definitely a pretty good Castlevania. But yeah, that is everything I've been playing.
All right. Yeah, watching the gameplay definitely makes me more think more about getting back to Dawn of Sorrow. I really should. It's just obviously I'm still dreading the Medusa heads and the clock tower and all that. So who knows? Maybe I'll do some of that during Extra Life. We'll see what happens. I don't have any specific plans, but I still have it installed, so it's not as though I couldn't just jump in and do that. But yeah. All right. Well, as for what I've been playing this week, so there's actually a pretty long list. Most of the games were pretty short. A lot of it was more just me testing stuff out while I was doing tests for checking sound and everything else, doing some recordings to test things, and then also doing some actual streaming. Speaking of which, I do want to note something that I figured out. So, like, I listened back to some of the stream from the other night, and the fan is really loud in that, but I realized it's the laptop fan that's loud. It's not my desktop fan that's loud. And so I just needed to, I am testing right now, having my laptop fan set to the quiet mode, and seeing if it still performs well enough to be able to do recording and streaming and everything else. And I'll probably do a test stream either tomorrow or Thursday. I haven't really decided. It's going to be one of the two, just to see how it compares, because, or at the very least, do a test recording, because that'll give me the same, good idea of what to expect as far as the noise level. But, the games that I tested out while doing this, first I did some Expedition 33, and I am near the end of Act 1 right now. I just went to the, whatever the name of the cliffs are. in the last area for Act 1. So I'm like pretty much at the very beginning of that. I haven't gotten much past that. So one thing that was kind of funny is when I was playing, I forgot that parry is the right shoulder button instead of the left shoulder button, and so I kept trying to parry with the left shoulder button and it wasn't working. So but yeah, so did a little bit of that, not very much. And then I also booted up Doom Eternal because I realized that I hadn't actually tested Doom Eternal since before I upgraded my graphics card. So the to just give a slight update to performance on that now versus what it was when I was still on a 2080 Ti. So then it was like 120 to 150, pretty average with the ultra nightmare visual settings, you know, minus ray tracing, of course. And then if I turn on ray tracing, I think it was like 80 to 90. And then I tested this time with, you know, all the same settings, 1440p and all that. But I first I tested it without ray tracing, and I was getting anywhere from, I think on the low end, like 156 all the way up to like 194, maybe more. No, it looks like 196 is probably the top of what I got without ray tracing. With ray tracing, I was getting pretty much consistently above 120. So even though I could easily turn on ray tracing and would still be getting high enough frame rate, actually it did go up to 202. I just decided, no, I'd rather just have the higher frame rates because that's a pretty significant difference in frame rate, even if it isn't, you know, like so bad. It's not like bad to where, oh, I can't play this way. It's just more like, you know, I'd much rather have additional frames, especially when I'm playing on ultra violence difficulty. So, but yeah, didn't move the needle super far in it. I just kind of made some more progress in the level that I was still working on. So good stuff. Amazing looking game, runs beautifully, and just definitely a great example of great optimization across the board. And yes, of course, my PC is very, very powerful, but even without that being said, I mean, you can run at 60 FPS easily on the Steam Deck. So, you know, I'm pretty happy with that. I also, on my actual stream, I played some, a bit of Death Stranding 2. Really not very much. I basically just played like half hour or so. Didn't move the needle story-wise. Pretty much just focused on getting some roads built and going towards, I mean, you're making a delivery, which I guess technically was a main story-related delivery, but at the same time, it didn't like move the story forward other than saying, your next quest, here's your next story quest that's coming up. They got assigned. So, yeah, like I said, not much to say about that. I also got to play some Peak with my wife, and this is the first time either of us really played this because the extent of what I had done before was just booting it up on the Steam Deck and testing it out, and it does seem to run pretty close to 60 FPS most of the time, if not always, on the Steam Deck, which is really impressive. I mean, it's, you know, low visual settings, but still the fact that it runs that well pretty much right out the box is really nice. And we didn't make it very far up the mountain. I think the highest I got up to was like 83 meters or something, so it really wasn't very high. We're planning to play some of that during the Extra Life stream on Friday when we do our co-op session, at least until my wife gets too frustrated, and then we might move on to something else. There's I think the name of the game might be called Blood Money. No, it's not Blood Money. It's something like that, but it's like an interactive movie, basically, that like a choose your own adventure kind of interactive movie that I thought could be fun for us to try out if Peak ends up being too much of an issue, like my wife just gets too frustrated. So But we'll see what we get. The one unfortunate thing, of course, with this, as I mentioned when we were playing on stream, is that this game does not allow you to play two people at the same time with one copy of the game, even with two separate accounts. You have to have two copies of the game. But it's also a cheap game because it's like, without a discount, it's $8 a piece, which really isn't bad. So, all things considered, it was worth it, and it was only $5 for the second copy, so it worked out. But yeah, not much else to say about that one. But the thing I played most of all this past week was Salt and Sanctuary, which I finished the game. I had, I think, what was it, 10 or 11 more bosses that I had to go through. So some of these may be slightly out of order in how I completed them, but the first one I did was Karstraw the Cruel. I don't think I had too many issues with him. I mean, I died to him probably 2 or 3 times and then was able to beat him, so not really much to mention about him. After him, though, there was the Witch of the Lake, and oh my goodness, she was... Actually, no, she wasn't the next one. She was awful, and I'll talk about her in a little bit. There was the Stench Most Foul, I believe was the next one I faced. And that one was kind of a pain. Mostly just because I just kept getting swarmed by his stupid little things, and then I'd get poisoned and all this other stuff. But yeah. Oh yes, the Tree of Men. Alright, so this one, I came into the arena from the wrong side, which was completely unintentional, but at least the candle, whatever point, was very close by. So the boss in and of himself is not necessarily that hard. I could usually, I mean, like, taking out his... You know, the hanging people from him, you know, the men hanging from the Tree of Men. You know, pretty easy. Take them out without too much difficulty. The thing that ended up being the biggest issue is, of course, the arena being over a big, a long fall below. So if he stomps and you happen to be close enough, you're flying off the arena. And so I definitely fell off the arena quite a few times, mostly from his stomps. There were 2 times in a row. I got him to a second phase, got him down to just a tiny sliver of health, like where I could have very easily just hit him once with any attack at all. He would have been dead. But the thing is that I, not very smartly, decided to, okay, you know, I had to go up to the top so I could hit his head. And so I did kind of like a diving X attack, or Y attack, yeah, strong attack. And then when I got down to the bottom, he stomped and I flew off. That happened twice in a row. So after that, I didn't do that at all unless I knew for a fact that that last hit was going to kill him. So I took care of that. Disemboweled Husk was another one I did. I don't think he took me very many tries, just like 2 or 3 tries probably. So not too bad on that one. But I'm pretty sure Witch of the Lake was probably the next one. And yeah, she sucked. I took your advice and used that shield. I can't remember the name of it, but you know, it had the arcane protection or holy protection or whichever it was that I needed protection from. I think I actually protected it against both, but the attacks that she kept putting out, the main problem was that yes, I could block the attacks, but it would do quite a bit to my stamina, and then she'd follow up with another attack, which would do even more, and then it would end up, you know, knocking my shield off, or it would knock my shield off before I had a chance to recover my stamina, and then I'd end up getting killed by her follow-up attack. That one definitely was the fight that took me the most tries, without question. It was the worst fight in the game, by far. And of course, in order to get all the achievements whenever I decide to go back to this, I am going to have to fight her again. I can't avoid it because one of the achievements I need is to complete that sorcerer's quest, and that requires fighting her, which is just irritating. Try to think of what other bosses I had, because I didn't write down the names of all of them, but there was the unskinned and whatever the boss was that was with him.
The alchemist?
Yeah. And so that one I think only took me probably 3 tries. That one wasn't terrible per se. It was more just having them both together that made it suck. And of course the path to get to the run back was pretty irritating. Because you're starting like way up at the top of the arena, and then you have to go like all the way around in order to get down to them. But yeah, I eventually was able to take them out. Let's see here, what else was there? There was the I don't think it's Forgotten King. Maybe that's what it was called. It's 3 bosses at once. That one wasn't too bad. That one only took me a couple tries. But that's what, one of the optional ones. So there's that. Then there was the Kraken Dragon Scourge, or whatever he's called, which I'm pretty sure is like the second to last boss technically for the game. He did take me, probably like 10 tries to beat. But most of the time if I died, it was pretty early on in the fight. So it wasn't like, oh, I got him nearly down to the end and then he killed me. But I was eventually able to finish that one. I know that there's Ronan Kron was one of them. I think he was actually one of the last ones I fought, because I think I fought him. He was the last one just before I fought the final boss. But he wasn't terrible. I think he took me 2 or 3 tries. Wasn't too bad, but I took him out. But one that was definitely more notable for me. So, of course, I'm looking at the achievement list and seeing that there's that I'm not like the achievement list seems very doable. But one of the achievements is beating the tutorial boss, the Unspeakable Deep. But the only way that you can beat him is in a brand new game on a brand new character. You only get one opportunity to fight him, and that's at the very beginning. If you don't beat him then, you can't fight him again unless you start a new character. Because he's not even available on New Game Plus. At least not without using like a glitch of some kind. But you have to get all the way to the Red Hall of Cages in order to use that glitch. And it just was going to be too much of a hassle, so I didn't bother with that. So I probably ended up doing a fresh character, like 12 different fresh characters, before I was finally able to beat him. But it was really satisfying to beat him. I ultimately ended up doing with the cleric. As soon as I started up the character, I reduced him down to nothing but his loincloth and a club, and then I ran past the few enemies leading up to the boss, and then when I got to the boss, it's applied the Blessed Page, or whatever it's called, like, adds holy damage to the mace, and so I'm two-handing the mace, whack, whack, roll behind him, whack, whack, roll behind him, whack, whack, and so on and so forth. He did actually, the time that I beat him, he actually did get a hit in me, and I almost died, like I had just a tiny bit of health left, but because I had the healing spell, I could heal myself, and then I was able to manage for the rest of the fight, and being careful, I was actually able to beat him and get the achievement accordingly. I'm pretty sure all that's left is the final boss, and he He definitely was not the one I had the most difficulty with. I mean, definitely that goes to the Witch of the Lake by far. But he gave me a decent amount of trouble. What I did decide, though, is going into that fight, rather than each time, I mean, of course, you know, when you die, when you get killed by a boss, then the salt that you lost stays with the boss. When I got to the point that, oh, I don't have this salt anymore, or you know, that the salt is gone forever, I just decided that I would, instead of him having increased health, when I'm coming out of the candle area, the save point way up above that you have to get down from in order to get to the boss, instead of going to him and then having to deal with his extra HP, I just leapt off, so I fell to my death, which meant that the salt was gone forever, and then when I went back to the boss, he had his normal amount of health. So yeah, that one was not the most difficult one I've dealt with. It was tricky, but it wasn't like ridiculous. I remembered, you know, as I was going into the fight, or rather after fighting against him once or twice, you had told me about his grab attack that he, you know, lunges at you and grabs you. I tried rolling into it. That didn't work. At least not most of the time. But it was probably more just my own timing that was the issue, that I would either roll too soon or I would accidentally roll the wrong way. But I think it was more that I just usually rolled too soon, and so he ended up getting me pretty easily. But yeah. Oh, one more thing I want to mention. So the footage that plays for both the Kraken Dragon Scourge and the Unspeakable Deep, I actually played the game on my desktop for both of those, so it's much, much higher resolution, you know, being 1440p instead of 800p, and 240 frames per second, obviously. So that was nifty. I mean, the game is still very playable at 60 or 90, but 240 is very nice. So, I think that's all I really have to say about that one. Just, you know, really solid game. Really enjoyed it myself. I think honestly, this has, it's become one of my favorite Souls-likes. And I guess I should say, of the 2D Souls-likes, this is definitely my favorite one so far. I'm trying to think of how many 2D Souls-likes I played. I know there was obviously this one, Moon Scars. I can't remember if I played any other 2D ones. But this one was good. It was very good. I enjoyed it quite a lot. And I'll definitely play it again. At the very least, so that I can get the remaining achievements. But yeah, I finished the game at like level 91, I believe. Something like that. So good stuff. So then I ended up jumping straight into Salt and Sacrifice, which I did actually on stream, and oh, there it goes. So with Salt and Sacrifice, of course, it seems to run pretty consistent 60 FPS on Switch too, which is great. There's definitely some differences over the first game, but thankfully it doesn't seem like the Monster Hunter-esque parts that you thought it might be, or you know, that you were at least under the impression it was, as far as having to chase the boss and all that were exactly accurate. Basically just works out that the bosses, at least certain bosses, how it ends up working is that when you encounter them initially, they will run off and you'll be able to damage them little by little as they go along. And then they will stop at a specific arena where you get to properly fight them. And they like spawn enemies as they're walking to you and everything, which is makes their basically just makes it, you know, harder to actually be able to damage them initially when you're trying to get to them. But all right, so essentially the information about Assault and Sacrifice. Let me just try to back up a little bit. So of course, these bosses, they go to their final arena where you actually properly fight them. The nice thing is that any damage that you did to them previously stays on them. So you don't have to worry about having to restart the fight. It also ends up being really nice because of the fact that if you happen to die against them, once they've already reached their arena, then they stay in the arena. You don't have to re-chase them, and they still have all their health lost that they had lost before they got to the arena. So those aspects are really nice. They made some other quality of life improvements to this game. They significantly reduced fall damage. Like it was really shocking because I got so used to Salt and Sacrifice or Salt and Sanctuary where you fall even from a short distance. A lot of times you're going to lose a good chunk of health. If you fall really far, you're just dead. And this one, it's like you fall really far and you lose like maybe half your health, and it's like, oh, that's not bad. So and the character I'm playing as this time, it's a different class that wasn't available in the first game, but it's basically a samurai dex class, which is like, hey, that works. I might as well try out something different. Like dex is not, the only time I've ever done a dexterity build was the last time I played Dark Souls 1. And normally I just strength build is my default. That's what I like to go for. I like to just hit stuff hard. But this has been pretty fun so far. And they changed some other things, like the fact that now potions, instead of it being that you have to use up skill points on your skill tree, instead you just have to gather items that you trade those in, and then you can upgrade your potions to carry more and all of that. More similar to what you have in Dark Souls. But yeah, not super far. I mean, I've beaten like, I want to say 3 bosses. I got a decent, I came pretty close to beating the, the tutorial boss at the beginning. Following similar strategy to what I did with the Unspeakable Deep in Salt and Sanctuary. But unfortunately, I didn't beat him. Though I believe you actually get another opportunity to face him later in the game, which is good. So I'm definitely going to do that. And I think that that one actually doesn't have an achievement tied to it. Of course, I'm playing on the Switch, so it wouldn't matter anyway. But yeah, overall, I'm really enjoying the game. I haven't played since I streamed it the other night. But what I played, I really, really like, and I'm planning to, I'm definitely going to be playing during Extra Life. Probably, well, if nothing else, I'm definitely going to play overnight, because Souls-like games, I have discovered, are a great way to keep myself wide awake. And now that I know that is going to be my go-to every single time, because it makes those overnight hours way, way easier. I mean, like, it was a dramatic difference playing Dark Souls last time in the middle of the night. Like, I was wide awake the whole time I was playing Dark Souls, whereas previous years I would be trying to play lots of other games and nothing was keeping me awake. If I couldn't find something that got my blood pumping enough, I would just be falling asleep very quickly, or, struggling to stay awake at least. Not actually falling asleep, but yeah. I think that's all I have to say about Salt and Sacrifice. But I did end up getting one extra game that I hadn't really planned on, but I just kind of got the itch to give it a go, and I grabbed Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater. So, this game is capped at 60 FPS. There's probably a way to change that, but I didn't, look up how to change it, whether there's any mods or anything else. So I will just say right now, at least with some optimized settings, which is basically ultra on high, native anti-aliasing, no upscaling, I'm getting basically a locked 60 FPS. I think it shows the lowest it ever got down was 59, but I never saw it drop that low. The only time I ever saw it drop below 60 FPS would be like in transition scenes. Like it would have a really low drop for a split second, but it wasn't actually in gameplay. So it was kind of weird from that standpoint, but the game looks amazing. And it feels very much like the original game. It's basically just quality of life improvements in terms of controls, like the fact that you can actually crouch while you're walking. You can crouch walk. Which you can also do on the 3DS version, but the 3DS version was also a remake. They did things like mapping the aiming your weapon to the left trigger and then firing with the right trigger. They made it so that you can, so going between your weapons and your items, it's on the D-pad instead. You hold down the D-pad instead of holding down one of the triggers. A couple things that I might change that I haven't decided on yet are for melee attacks. It's mapped. I mean, it's mapped to the right trigger for that. But I'm, having just played the original Metal Gear Solid recently and knowing that the controls are pretty much the same for the original games, I kind of want to put melee attacks on X and then put reloading on A or on B, because that's what it was on the other game. I haven't decided yet, but the controls technically fit more with how it usually is, where X you use to reload, B you use to crouch, A you use to jump. But I'm just like, I don't know. Either way, everything I played of this one, it's very good. Like I said, it's a very faithful remake. I mean, the visuals are extremely impressive, without question. I would not say if a person, if someone doesn't have the hardware that can handle it, whether it's a console, because I think at least the PS5 Pro, PS5 and PS5 Pro both run pretty well now. PS5 Pro, they actually fixed it, because for a while there, it was running better on the PS5 than it was on the PS5 Pro, but they did fix it. Yeah, I mean, if you can play it on a console, obviously, you could play it there as well. But if you just want something that's going to run well everywhere, you can go with the original version from the Master Collection, which is excellent. It's the same exact game. It's just the controls are slightly different. I mean, they're what they were in the original game, and it's a very, very good game. I mean, really, it's an excellent game. The one thing I will say about this, though, is because of the fact that I have not viewed the cutscenes, like every time after the first time I played the game, I have skipped the cutscenes, at least the majority of them. Just because it's like, well, I don't really need to watch the cutscenes. I just want to play the game, and I know the story. I don't really need to see the cutscenes. But I had forgotten how long the cutscenes are in this game. It's like, I mean, it's an interesting story, but when I'm literally just like last night, all I was wanting to do was get through the Virtuous mission, which is the prologue basically for the game. It's your tutorial mission. That's all I wanted to do, and it took like 3 hours to get through it, when I know I could easily get through it a lot faster if I didn't have to deal with the cutscenes. Now, it was also because I got discovered a handful of times and I was trying to not get discovered. I'm actually kind of contemplating restarting the game on a high difficulty, and then trying to go for like achievements related to not setting off any alerts and that sort of thing for the entire game, which I believe is doable. I believe even if you are technically, if you are discovered, you can just go back to your previous save and then it doesn't count. I have to look that up, because if it's like, oh, you can't get discovered, period, the entire game, it's like, yeah, I'm not going to be able to do that. But I'm gonna look that up and at least consider doing that, because I've played Metal Gear Solid 3 all the way through 3 times. I did the Vita version first, and then I played it on 3DS with that with the frame rate that got really, really bad, especially in boss fights. And then I found out about the mod for 3DS that actually made it so that it ran at a locked 30 FPS. And then I replayed it because of that, and it was a much, much better experience than the first time I played it on there. But yeah, I'm really impressed with it. I don't think it was a necessary remake by any stretch, because the original game is already excellent, and this one really is just much, much prettier. But it's still a very good game, and I'm glad that I have given it a real go finally, and I'm enjoying what I've played. I think it could be fun. There's a couple other quality of life things they did. Is they made it so that you can access your food by pressing up on the D-pad, and you can access your camouflage, or maybe it's down on the D-pad. I can't remember. I think it's up on the D-pad for food, and then down on the D-pad for camo. So you can change your camo, do a quick camo change rather than having to go to the menu every time in order to do that. So that's pretty convenient. But yeah. I don't think there's really anything else to say. I mean, it's Metal Gear Solid 3. It's incredible game. And I will say, I am playing the third-person camera version instead of playing with the classic camera, because I've never played it with the classic camera. I mean, I could, because I did it, with the original Metal Gear Solid and Metal Gear Solid 2, but I like the third-person camera. That's how I played the first time that I played Metal Gear Solid 3, and I prefer it. So yeah, that's everything.
All right. So while we're still on the topic of Metal Gear Solid, I'm glad you're definitely enjoying it. A question I sort of have is, based on what you know, and especially since you played, you played through Phantom Pain, do you think it could have helped if instead of using Unreal Engine 5, they used the Fox engine? And do you think that could have helped with performance issues, and maybe even they could have had a higher frame cap instead?
Well, I don't know if they would have tried to have a higher frame cap, just because of the fact that there's so few games that even bother to go above 60 FPS nowadays. At least like especially the Metal Gear Solid games, for example. I don't think any of them go above 60 FPS unless you modify the files to change that. I'm pretty sure they're all locked to 60. But definitely, the Fox engine, it could easily run a lot better, without question. I actually should try to do the modification on Metal Gear Solid V and find out whether or not it would have, how it would do frame rate wise on my desktop, because the only time I played it recently, the last time I tried playing it was before I upgraded my graphics card. And in fact, I don't even think I think it was before I upgraded my CPU as well. So it was before I did any upgrades, and like with uncapping the frame rate, I was getting in the 90s. So with much weaker hardware, if I'm getting in the 90s, probably if I did it now with my current build, I'd easily be able to get in the hundreds, maybe even around 200. But yeah, and I do eventually want to finish the getting all the achievements on Ground Zeroes, which is the smaller of the two parts for the game. So, but yeah.
And is Delta, and I take it then that Delta isn't Steam verified, or is it considered Steam verified?
No.
Steam Deck verified.
No, it's not.
No,
not at all.
Okay.
It's unsupported.
Okay, that's not surprised then. At least that's one game where it says it's not supported, and the performance will reflect that rather than saying it is verified and it's the opposite. Yeah, definitely glad you're enjoying that. Going to Salt and Sanctuary, very glad you were able to finish everything there, getting through the final bosses and also get through the Unspeakable Deep as well. That definitely took me multiple tries as well to get right. I didn't consider doing the Blessed Page strategy, and that definitely probably could have saved me a bit on that end, but definitely glad that you were persistent enough to get it done. Also glad you're able to get through the Witch of the Lake, who I agree is just a major nuisance. Trying to get through it. And I mean, the last time I played against her in my last run, I was just lucky with her not spamming that like machine gun attack with magic, because I didn't even bother with the shield that time because I wanted to see if I could actually do it without it. And I was just lucky that she wasn't spamming and I was able to just roll behind her for most of the fight. But yeah, I agree. She's awful. Now, one thing that I can't remember, because when you mentioned it, did the Forgotten King boss fight have an achievement?
No,
I can't recall if that one. Okay.
But I when it comes to Souls games, I want to do every single boss. I don't care if there's an achievement tied to it or not.
Yeah. That was just one I couldn't remember, because I mean, I think Mal might have one, but I just couldn't remember if that one.
No, she doesn't.
Did or didn't. Oh, she doesn't. Okay, never mind. Yeah, and I'm definitely glad. And now, when you mentioned it before, or for the final boss, I didn't consider that, and it's definitely very genius to just kill yourself before you face him, because I never thought about that, and it would have made my last one probably a bit easier, not having to, face him with extended health and higher defense as well, when I could have just made things easier and just killed myself beforehand, and hey, you're back to normal. So that's definitely good. Yeah, but Salt and Sanctuary is definitely, like you said, a great 2D Souls-like, even with the janky jumping in it. Overall, it's pretty solid and fun. So I mean, I think if you can pull up a guide for both of the characters, you should be able to get both of their quests done in one run
for sure.
Because I don't think there are too many, if any, conflicts, at least in general, with the characters. It's just a matter of, like, depending on what order you do things and whatnot, that complicates things. But yeah. Now, as far as Salt and Sacrifice goes, that was definitely good, and I'm glad I watched you play the game, because what I saw was different than what the reports that were given to me. Like you said, I was told that it's like Monster Hunter, where you chase the bosses around, which, I would think, or at least how it sounded in my head, was like, okay, that's gonna be annoying having to chase a monster or chase a boss around continuously, especially if it's a Souls-like game. That means it's easier for me to die in this game. But since it's just, hey, chase boss from A to B, and any damage you deal will apply to its health bar once you reach the arena, is great. So it's definitely a whole lot simpler than that. And even seeing that there were certain bosses that you didn't even have to chase as well, and you just went to the arena like normal, and I'm like, all right, you know what, this game, I don't know why people were saying it was bad then, because it really doesn't seem to be, doesn't seem to be doing stuff that's too different that it's a negative. I mean, a lot of things were even seem to be even better, especially with the grappling hook. I mean, I thought that was pretty ingenious, and sort of like what we said during the live stream, it's like 2D Sekiro, especially since you're a samurai character, so you've got your katana swinging around, just doing that. So it definitely seems fun, and I'll definitely keep an eye out on a sale for that. there's one question I sort of had, which I don't think I noticed during the live stream, and that is and I don't even think that really applied to you anyway, is if you die during the middle of a chase, I wonder, do you start the chase all over again,
Yes.
or would it... Okay.
Yeah. That is the one downside. If they don't make it, if you don't manage to get them all the way to their arena, then you do have to restart the chase when you come back. But as long as you can chase them to the point where they actually make it to their arena, then they'll stay there, and then you don't have to rechase them.
Yeah, that's definitely nice. But yeah, so I'll definitely keep an eye on that, because I from what I saw during your live stream, it looked very enjoyable and seems to pretty much build upon what made the first game enjoyable. So yeah, I'll definitely keep an eye out on that. I feel like there's something else to say. Oh yeah, and I guess one last thing. Just question I guess I had was for Peak. Now, it's been a while since I played this. Is the layout different each time, or is it the same?
Seems to be the same.
As far as like which way you could go. Okay.
But I'm only on the very first level. We haven't made it up.
Right, yeah. Cause I mean, I can't remember which way I went when I played that. And granted, I was completely fresh to that, and my buddy, he had played it multiple times, so I was pretty much just following him, like, hey, okay, you know what, you know the way, that's fine with me. I know eventually, I think we made our way, even though we started probably on the right side, we somehow ended up on the left side, and then it sort of got easier to get up there. But I just can't remember exactly, like, at one point we started to transition over, and that there were even like a couple decent spots where there were like some coconut trees where we could just just replenish our stamina from that point, and whatnot. But yeah, hopefully it's enjoyable when you play it on the live stream. But yeah, I think that's everything I have.
All right, sounds good. Oh yeah, one other thing I forgot to mention with Salt and Sanctuary, and like I mentioned this on the live stream, and I can't remember if you reacted to it or not, but the fact that I figured out that you don't actually have to refight the final boss in order to get both endings if you transfer your save, stop cloud saves, and then just I mean, if you warp out of the arena after you beat him, then you don't have to fight him twice. You only have to fight him once. Because I definitely took advantage of that so that I could get both endings, because I didn't really want to have to worry about that. Especially because, you know, the next one, theoretically, I shouldn't even have to finish the game in order to get the remaining achievements, the last two. I mean, I probably would at that point, because I mean, unless I'm just doing the bare minimum on bosses, I would probably have to do that. But, yeah.
Now, something I just thought about is you probably didn't have to bother disabling cloud saves, because there isn't really a true cloud save for the game. Because
yeah, there is.
Whenever I started the game on a new platform, I've always had to do a brand new save. Like, the saves never transferred over from device to device.
Fine. It did transfer, because
what am I doing wrong then?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, but I mean, yeah, it worked just fine. I mean, like, I don't know about on the Switch, because I know you first played it on the Switch, but at least with, you know, like, if you play it, so the other characters that I made didn't transfer over, but the first character I made did transfer, because that's how I did the Kraken Dragon and the Unspeakable Deep. I did both of those on my desktop with the same character. So I transferred the save first, then disabled cloud save so that it wouldn't retransfer the save, and that way I could get one ending without having to worry about it transferring over my save after having gotten that ending. And then I was able to just boot it up on the other platform, go from that save point down to where I could, select the other ending.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, news topics tonight. So, first of all, we have, Starfield, of course, came out for PlayStation 5. I think it was on April 7th, if I'm not mistaken. So that would have been last Friday. Or no, not Friday. No. Well, I think it was April 7th. If it was April 7th, that was a week ago. So that was last Tuesday. Point is that it's out on PS5. And this isn't something that's happening with everyone, but quite a few users have been having problems where the game has been crashing on them. And in some cases, it's like within the opening section of the game, and it's happening regularly. Now, I know this is not happening with everyone, because I know of at least 2 people where it is not happening with them, because I shared it in the PlayStation channel on one of the Discord, one of the main Discords that I follow, or that I'm active in. And two of the guys there said that no, they haven't had any problems with it. So, so Bethesda did confirm that they have verified that this is an issue with some of their player base, not all of them, but some of them, and that they are working to put out a fix by the end of this week. Now, I definitely have some thoughts on this. I don't know. I will save my thoughts for when it's my turn, but what are your thoughts?
It's a bit perplexing to me, as far as it's an issue for some people but not others, which is kind of interesting since it's the same hardware. Yeah. It's not like you're using different components or whatnot, so it's definitely weird that this is an issue for some people, not others. So I'm not certain what the problem is, what could be triggering it. One thing that I would say is, considering the fact that some people are, of course, I don't know what the percentage, of people who are impacted are, but I don't know what the percentage is, but I wonder if there was just enough quality assurance testing going on that Bethesda could have caught this. I feel like if they tested it enough, they probably could have caught this ahead of time before the game was released, and just avoid this issue. Yes, it's good that they are saying that that's been documented, that they're working on correcting this issue, but at the same time, I feel like something this big, or something that's like this big of a problem, is something that shouldn't really have happened at all. And I mean, considering the fact that also that this is a game that, while it's a port, it's several plus years old. So that's not something that we should be expecting in this release. Now, some people might say, yeah, well, it's a Bethesda game, they're going to be buggy and stuff, but I don't think that's really an excuse for, hey, I still expect the game to run. Well, I expect it to not crash within the very beginning of the game. Yeah. That's something that shouldn't be happening. So I'm hoping they're able to fix it. I mean, at the very least, though, I guess you could say it's not like they spent a full $70 on the game, because they dropped it to $50 now. Yeah, $50. So it's not like they spent a whole $50, but still, if you're gonna be spending money, I think at the bare minimum you should expect a working product. Yeah. At the very least. So hopefully this can be resolved quickly. Hopefully they can pinpoint the exact issue. The fact that, again, this isn't something that can be or necessarily be repeated, or they can't exactly say why it's only impacting certain people, is again strange, weird, but hopefully they are able to finds a method to repeat the incident and say, okay, here's what it is, here's what the issue is, let's go ahead and patch this out. And yeah, it's just really weird, I think, that this is something that is happening, and just on the PlayStation side, because this hasn't, or at least to my knowledge, hasn't been an issue that's impacted the Xbox version or something that's impacted the PC version. I'm sure both versions might have had some issues and bugs, but not crashes like this. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Like I said, hopefully it gets fixed soon. I'm glad that Bethesda isn't just trying to sweep this under the rug or just, dismiss it casually. So, again, hopefully it gets fixed, because if people spent money on something, they should get a working product. But yeah, I think that's primarily everything I have to say, at least right now.
So of course I first want to say it's definitely, like, I don't think this is a PlayStation 5 issue, as like a hardware issue or even like a operating system issue or anything like that. I think it's definitely a software issue. The one thing I'm not quite clear on is whether, I thought this was happening on both PS5 and PS5 Pro, but I'm starting to wonder if maybe it's just a PS5 Pro issue, because like the two guys that I mentioned who both are playing it on PS5, they just have base PS5. They don't have the Pro, and they haven't had any issues. But that I'm just not really sure what I'm trying to figure out what the issue could be, because it's just so weird, and it's not like the people who are having issues, it just happens once in a while and then it's fine the rest of the time. It's more like it's happening consistently, like just very regularly, and it was so bad that a lot of people requested refunds. At least Bethesda is working on a fix, and they're planning to have that out before the end of the week, and hopefully they do, because like you said, people should get a working product when they paid for it, especially because the fact that PlayStation doesn't typically do refunds. So you have a much harder time getting refunds on that side of things anyway. So hopefully this is something that is just going to be fixed soon and won't come up any further. And I think Starfield is a solid game. It's not perfect by any stretch. It has Bethesda jank and that sort of thing. But it's definitely better than it was when it launched. Launch-wise, it had a lot more problems. Even though I still enjoyed what I played, but when I hear about these freezing issues, it reminds me of what happened to me when I first started playing the game on PC. And the issue I had was that whenever I would go into combat, the game would freeze for a few seconds, and then it would just pick back up, and the audio would randomly cut out. And I couldn't figure out why it was doing that. It really was bothering me, though. And I was like about to put a very negative review up. And then it occurred to me, it got installed to my HDD rather than my SSD, because I did a remote install. I bought it on a whim. I ordered it. I did like a Green Man game, did through Green Man Gaming, so I got 20% off. But I did it, like the pre-launch, the early access version, and even with 20% off, it was still expensive. And then I did a remote install, but I didn't realize that Steam had my default drive set to my HDD, because that used to be where I would store it, since I had more space than my regular SSD. And so once I realized that it was installed to the wrong drive, it's like, that's probably what's causing the problem. And sure enough, that's exactly what was causing the problem. But I know that can't be an issue on PlayStation, because they don't have HDDs on there. Like you can put PS4 games on an external hard drive, but you can't do PS5 games. And so, at least I'm pretty sure you can't. They at least tell you can't. I don't know if that means that you actually can't, or if it's just more a recommendation, because it would be kind of funny if the real reason was that people had external hard drives. They installed them to those external hard drives, and that's the reason why they were actually having the problems. To be like, Well, that explains
Yeah.
it, but I wouldn't expect that's the case on PlayStation because it wouldn't really make sense since the system doesn't come with an external, with any type of regular hard drive. It just has SSD. So, but yeah. So, I'm glad at least it's not affecting absolutely everyone. As much as part of me wants to kind of laugh at the fanboys who were, bragging about how great it was going to be on PS5 Pro, and then they have these issues. I also know that it's not a PS5 Pro issue. It's not a PS5 issue, period. It's a software issue, and it's something that they will fix, and that hopefully it will be better very soon, and then they'll be able to just enjoy it. And the nice thing is them nice thing for them is not only do they get the game cheaper, 3 years after it came out, but they also get 60 FPS from the start, which Xbox didn't have at the beginning. And, PC obviously had that option, but the game was not well optimized, and I think it's better than it used to be, but it's still not the best. So, yeah, that's all I have to say on that topic.
Just thinking about it now, have you tried Starfield on your new build just to see how
I did. And I was getting over 100 some odd frames per second with everything maxed out. So
nice.
But yeah, someday I would actually kind of like to go back to it, because like I was really enjoying it when I was playing it. It's just that some of the issues I had with like particularly it was mostly just cargo loads and like carry limits and that sort of thing that ended up being more frustrating than not. And it's like, yeah, I've dealt with that enough in Skyrim and whatnot, and it's never really bothered me that much. But in Starfield, it bothered me more because you spend so much time walking across long distances with nothing in between. And yeah, now they have the rover, which certainly helps a lot with that. But you're still limited on like the space you have on your ship, for example, at least the base ship. And so there's just a variety of different things with that. But I think that they fixed some of those things, and they've made the game like better than it was before. So one of these days, maybe I'll hop back in and try playing some more. But yeah. All right. I'll let you pick which topic you want to talk about next.
Well, I guess I'll go ahead and discuss this controller here. So, there's a report that has come out, and this came from Brad Lynch, who has discussed Valve stuff, and he's been pretty spot on with his information. So he said on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, that Valve received its first large quantity of imports for a, quote, wireless PC controller in the US last week. And it lines up with what Valve has said about the 2026 Steam controller plan, but he didn't specify his sources and whatnot. And so videocards.com, they did some digging here, and it shows that the shipment was described as wireless PC controller for Valve Corporation from Chengwei Precision Industries Corporation Limited, which arrived on April 4th, so that was a couple weeks ago, from Hong Kong. Doesn't say how many controllers were inside, but it listed 40 packages and a gross weight of 12,970 kilograms. So how many controllers in there are unknown. And then there's just like a full invoice of everything here. So there's nothing too much that we know about, and it doesn't specify, exactly what type of controllers they could be. So, it could be for the Steam frame controllers, but realistically, it's most likely the Steam controller that these are for. But so yeah, so like nothing else has been announced. Nothing's been mentioned about other hardware, just the controllers. But That being said, what are your thoughts on this and Valve's potential plans?
Well, I would say it's pretty much guaranteed it's the Steam controllers, and I'm hoping this means we're going to get that announcement very, very soon. Like, I would love it if before we even posted this week's episode of the podcast, we got notification that, hey, the controllers are available for pre-order, and hopefully they have things controlled to where scalpers can't prevent us all from being able to get some, because I mean, like, if I can get 2 of them, I'll be happy. You know, one for me, one for my kids. That's all I'm really looking for. Of course, the ideal would be that they would also announce the price for Steam Machine and Steam Frame at the same time, and that they would actually be reasonably priced. But I'm not holding my breath on that front. So, either way, I'm really excited about this controller. I mean, as much as I love the QRD controller that I've been using, I still would really like. I mean, the Steam controller is going to be better without question. Like, I know how great the Steam Deck itself is, and the Steam controller is going to be that plus more. So, you know, why would I not want that to show up? One thing I was just thinking about is I would love to see. I mean, of course, it would be great if it was official from Valve, but I would love to see them do alternate shells for the controllers. And if they didn't, I would be perfectly happy with them just with some, you know, a third-party vendor just making those shells available for people to swap out themselves. Because, I mean, I want to have some transparent controllers. Like, I would love to do that. I'll be perfectly satisfied with just a straight black one as well. But, you know, it would be cool to have a transparent controller or two just for nostalgia and all that, because it's like, you know, especially if I could basically make it match my Steam Deck, because I love the custom shell that I put on there, and I would love to see that for a Steam controller as well. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say.
Yeah, like you said, I am fairly confident that these are the Steam controllers, no doubt about that. I am going to slightly differ in my hopes on what happens. I would like Valve to go ahead and just put these or sell these at the same time as the Steam Frame and the Steam Machine, just in the hopes that they say, hey, we have a special bundle where you can get all 3 of these together at a special price. So, like, that's the only reason why I would hope that they delay it. They probably might, you know, go ahead and sell it just because, hey, these are available, and we don't know exactly. We're still, you know, planning on getting these out this year, but we don't have a concrete date. So, I mean, they might still just go ahead and say, hey, we'll sell these now, and even later on, when the Steam Machine and the Steam Frame are available, we're still going to have a special bundle if you want to, in which case I'll still happen to probably double dip where I get the controller now and I get a controller as part of the bundle later on, and I'll probably, you know, just end up with 3 controllers, which I don't mind, you know, especially if, you know, like my niece and nephew are playing, then hey, that's going to be 3 controllers right there we're going to need. So that would be great. I do think, I do feel confident that at least a third-party company will have custom shells for the controllers. I mean, considering what, like you said, the deck has it, and at least with the faceplates, Valve is going to allow people or third parties to create their own faceplates for the Steam Machine. So I wouldn't say it's out of the realm of possibility that we could have special custom shells. If Valve could provide some themselves, hey, that would be great. I mean, they sort of did that loosely, but that was really more so with just like the limited edition Steam Decks, where you had the limited edition OLED, and then with the transparent one, and then also the white OLED as well. But if they could do something a bit more standard, where it's in more quantity, then I think that would be nice for people who want those colors. But I think, especially with the way Valve has been more open and improving with just sort of the right to repair stuff where they try to make things easier for people to repair their Steam Decks, and also just being able to get inside and tinker with it. I think part of that would also be them being more open with just the controllers as well, so people would be able to say, hey, I want to go ahead and tinker with this, I want to go ahead and swap out stuff. So I think it'll be fairly relatively simple of a process on that end. But yeah, like you said, hopefully it would be great if by the time the podcast goes live, we've already put in our pre-orders for a Steam controller. And hey, who knows? Maybe Valve already had orders, had some Steam machines and Steam frames available, and just said, hey, go ahead, guys, pre-order everything you want. So hopefully we'll, by the time podcast goes live, we'll have our pre-orders in there. So, but we'll see. But if Valve is going to go ahead and just release the Steam controller separately from the other hardware, I would say at the latest it'll be available for pre-order would be like mid-May, because since they've already arrived, I mean, they might have to clear like customs if they haven't already, but I think it's pretty reasonable that we could hear something soon. I mean, we're already just like halfway through April, so I think within the next 2 weeks it would be reasonable to hear something from them. But yeah, that's everything that I have on the topic.
One thing I was just thinking about is, for one, at least I would hope swapping out a shell on a Steam controller would be a lot easier than it was on the Steam Deck OLED. Because, man, that was a pain. I mean, like, the back was easy, but the front was not, because you basically had to take apart the entire thing in order to get to it, to where you could actually unscrew stuff so that you could attach the new plate. But theoretically, especially since there's no screen involved, it should be a lot easier with a controller. But another thought I had was, I mean, this is, more of a pipe dream at this point, just based on the way things have been with hardware. But them revealing the Steam controllers, the Steam frame, and the Steam machine prices all at the same time. Even if they say Steam machine and Steam frame, they're not going to release them right away. They're just basically doing like what they did with the Steam Deck, where they basically say you can reserve yours ahead of time for $5, and then once it's available, you can buy it. But then at the same time, also revealing Half-Life 3.
Yes.
Or Half-Life X, if that's what they end up calling it. But I have a feeling it will be called Half-Life 3, and that HLX is just, the code name at this point. Or, a code name. Although, actually, I think the code name was something to do with the Borealis. So, I don't know. Either way, like, I don't expect it to actually happen, but it would be pretty cool. And I mean, I'm like, Half-Life 3 definitely excites me whenever that finally gets revealed. But obviously, I care way more about just getting that Steam controller, and it would be nice to find out that you could get a bundle for a good price with all three. So. All right. So we got a rumor, and once again, this is a rumor. We don't know how true it is, but this is coming from Detective Seeds. Excuse me. If I remember correctly, Detective Seeds was the one who gave us all the leaks about Blue Point. And as a result, lost all of his access from PlayStation. They basically stopped giving him free stuff because they were mad at him for doing that. But if I'm not mistaken on that. So he says, according to 3 former Rockstar employees, which he contacted through LinkedIn, Grand Theft Auto 6 is aiming to release the PC version in February 2027. And keep in mind, it is supposed to be coming out on consoles November of 2026. Now, As he also notes, all stated this timeline could shift, but Take-Two and Rockstar wanted to get the game out before the end of the fiscal year, and he reached out to a number of employees, and it was just the 3 that actually responded. So, what are your thoughts on this?
It definitely would be a whole lot sooner than I would anticipate. Why there's such a delay to begin with, I can't understand. But it's definitely, at least it's not as bad as I guess how we originally would have thought.
Mm-hmm.
This would be it's November, so December,
three
January,
months.
that's 3 months essentially. So it's not that far. That's not bad at all. Originally, I would have thought it would be, say, 9 months, a year, maybe slightly more, 15 months. But this would be a whole lot better. So if this is true, not bad at all, I'd say. And the fact that the game was delayed at least once, maybe twice, lessens that blow. Now, if the game was partially delayed because they wanted to make sure that the PC release wasn't too far behind, or maybe it was because the PC release had issues, I don't know. But if that was the reason why, then I guess it would make some sense as to why it was delayed. But the fact that they're able to, if this is true, having everything be released within a closer window is great. I don't have a problem with that. And if it is true, then all the console fanboys who would be saying, well, the PC version is going to be what you see on YouTube as you see the PS5 version being played, that really won't hold that much water now will it? So it'll definitely be interesting to see what happens later on, and if it is coming in February, then I would expect that closer to the release of the console version, we would hear something from Take-Two saying, hey, this February, we're releasing the PC version of Grand Theft Auto 6, which would be great. Now, that being said, I'm not getting it. I haven't really had an interest in the franchise. I played a little bit of 5, and it was alright. I mean, I didn't really grab me or anything like that. But for people who are interested in it, then that would be great that they won't have to wait as long to play it. But hopefully this is true, that it is releasing in February. Like I said, not certain why the PC version had to be delayed or postponed versus the console versions, but 3 months isn't that bad. So yeah, that's all I have.
Yeah, when it comes to this, I am definitely not like you. I don't care about Grand Theft Auto. I played 4 and I enjoyed it at the time, but even though I had lots of opportunities to buy 5, and even at one point I had considered getting, when I was getting my PS4, I had considered getting a bundle with GTA 4, with GTA 5. I didn't, and then all the numerous times throughout the years that I considered grabbing it on PC, I didn't. And after a while, I finally just got to a point where it's like, I just don't care. Like I also know that there's more of the kind of content I don't want to see in GTA 5, which made me even less interested. But then it's also just because I came across so many other sandbox games that were more my style. Like Red Dead Redemption was a great example. I loved the first Red Dead Redemption. And even though I haven't gone back and actually played all the way through it again, even though I've restarted the game multiple times, it still is a game that I enjoy a lot more in terms of its style and everything else. And it was just because Grand Theft Auto, the mayhem just gets boring. It's like, okay, when I was younger, yeah, sure, I can go around and, randomly shoot stuff and get myself into crimes and crash into stuff and run people over and everything. it just got boring really fast. And I found, especially once I found that there were games that actually let you do stuff stealthy instead, and like just, oh, you can use tranks, you know. And it's not even necessarily that I think, oh, it's immoral to play this game, because I mean, they're pixels, you know, pixels and polygons. That's all they are. You know, they're not real people. I just find that the challenge, it's much more satisfying to not kill people, because it's like, to me, it's kind of like, okay, that's a greater challenge, and it's also kind of like, basically you're solving a puzzle to some degree, figuring out a way to get through the level without having to kill people, and without having to, I mean, like in some cases, be able to do without ever being seen. Like Watch Dogs 2, unlike Watch Dogs 1, did that really, really well, that there was ways that you could complete an entire area without even entering the building. You just use hacking, you use drones, and various other things, whereas the first game, it was like, I think there was maybe 1 or 2 levels I could actually do purely by hacking, and then the rest of the time I had to go in the building and you know, do stealth takedowns and whatnot. But yeah, Grand Theft Auto just doesn't appeal to me. That being said, with all this, it would not be surprising to me if this is a true rumor. But I also don't care. The only thing that I think would be funny about it is the fact that it's obviously, at least on typical PCs, it's probably going to run better than it does in consoles. Now, obviously, the big question is going to be with consoles, is it going to make 4K 60? Supposedly, at least on PS5 Pro, you know, people have theorized that, but a lot of that is also just kind of misunderstanding how the technology works. I think that PS5 Pro probably could do 4K 60, but it would be upscaled 4K, using PSSR and that sort of thing. So I do think that it's technically possible. Whether or not it's actually going to do that is hard to say. I think most places it's going to do a maximum of 4K 30, and even then it will probably be an upscaled 4K. But ultimately, like, whether the performance is better or not, at least on the PC, you'll have a lot more options of how to play the game if you want to play the game, because you can adjust the settings as you see fit. You can do mods and so on and so forth. There's lots of advantages, obviously, to playing it on PC if you so desire. And the PC versions of these games are always better. I mean, Red Dead Redemption 2 is still stuck currently at 30 FPS on consoles. Even with the Series X and the PS5 and even the PS5 Pro, it's stuck at 30 FPS. It still looks great, but the fact that it hasn't changed after all these years, I mean, the original game came out in 2018, and it's still 8 years later stuck at 30 FPS, whereas you can play it at 60 FPS. You can, if you do low enough settings, you can actually do 60 FPS on the Steam Deck. I don't know if it's entirely consistent, though. I ended up doing kind of a mix of settings, and I got 40 FPS very consistently on the Steam Deck, and I was quite happy with that. I played the majority of the game on Steam Deck. That being said, I guess the other thing that to me would be that the part of me that wants this to be true is more just to quiet the people who have bragged so much about the fact that this is going to be on consoles and not on PC. Especially the people who've said it's never coming to PC versus the people who are just like, oh, it's going to be a year later. And I mean, that's pretty typical, you know. Rockstar usually releases their games on PC a year after it's come out on console because they know that there are people who will double dip. And GTA 6 is obviously going to be huge. It's going to break records without question. I mean, it's going to be ginormous. But even if I was someone who was interested in GTA 6, and I mean, even if I was interested in GTA 6, I would, and it wasn't coming to PC in February of 2027, just a few months after, I still wouldn't buy a console for it because it's not worth it. It just isn't. And like, it could be day and date and I still wouldn't buy the game. I just don't care. It's not a game I want to play. And especially when I look more and more at my library, I'm like, man, I want to play that and that and that and that and that and that and that. Oh man, I just don't have enough time. Never enough time to play all these games. And, you know, then there's all these other ones where I'm looking, I'm like, you know, I want to try, that one looks like something interesting. I might like that. I'll try that out and sometimes find hidden gems, you know, in the mix. But, yeah. Either way, this is fun, I guess. All right. Any other thoughts on that before we get to the last topic?
No, sir.
All right. Why don't you take it away and let's just kind of speed through this one.
All right. So, the Xbox CEO Asha Sharma recently admitted that she believes that Xbox, or in a message she sent to Xbox employees, she said that Xbox Game Pass is not the best deal for gamers. She says that she has found the model to be too expensive, and in fact, here is what she wrote in her memo. Game Pass is central to gaming value on Xbox. It's also clear that the current model isn't the final one. Short-term, Game Pass has become too expensive for players, so we need a better value equation. Long-term, we will evolve Game Pass into a more flexible system, which will take time to test and learn around. Nothing too specific has happened. There have been rumors about Game Pass having new tiers added. One specifically includes only first-party titles. There could be one that there's also rumor that Call of Duty games may no longer come to the service day and date. So everything pretty much is speculation, but the bulk thing, or the main thing, is that she is not satisfied with the current state of Game Pass, and she wants it to improve. That being said, what are your thoughts on this message?
Well, you know, I guess one thing I want to say, first of all, is I had heard some people say, oh, this is just, you know, them using corpo speak in order to basically PR, you know, corpo speak in order to convince fans that this is the case, or that they're going to lower prices or whatever. But it is important to note, of course, that this was an internal memo, which that doesn't necessarily mean that it wasn't still, I mean, like, it wasn't intentionally leaked, like it was done with the idea, oh, this is going to be leaked. But it's also very possible that it wasn't intended to be leaked, and this is just that her basically saying, hey, this is how I see Xbox right now, and how I see Game Pass, and we need to make changes. All that being said, I would not be surprised to see some new tiers show up, like you mentioned. I think that would actually be a smart idea, because if they did something that was like, for example, first party only, you know, charge less for it, they could certainly draw more people in. Removing Call of Duty, I think the only way they could get away with, or I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. The way that they could keep Call of Duty in there would be to basically say the top tier version of Game Pass, which includes Call of Duty and everything else, maintains that $30 price point, but then the lower tiers don't have access to Call of Duty anymore, at least not on day one. That I could see being a little more reasonable, because there are some people who are like hardcore Call of Duty fans, or even if they made a tier that was literally just, this is the Call of Duty tier, which at the same time would probably end up costing them more than just buying the game, so maybe that wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. But yeah, like I can understand why they would pull it out, considering how bad the last one was, from, you know, what Call of Duty fans have said. It probably isn't much of a loss from that standpoint, but I don't know. Like, I'm not really convinced that Call of Duty in and of itself lost a lot of money because it was in Game Pass. I think it really just lost a lot of money because it was a crappy game. And yeah, they didn't get the individual sales from people who just got to play it through Game Pass, but I don't know. The other thing is that I think that they do need to make changes to the pricing. I mean, they can't do the $30 tier unless it includes a lot. And even then, it has to be, this is an option, not this is, it's basically either this or you don't get access to all these games that you actually want to play. So there's multiple aspects to this, and it's not quite as simple as some would like us to believe. That being said, I also don't expect Microsoft to stop being greedy. I just don't. So, yeah. I think that's all I have to say.
Yeah. I definitely can't disagree with her statements. I do think that there is a lot of lost value in the current Game Pass. Like you said, charging $30 for Game Pass is definitely not cheap. And you know, over time it definitely amounts to a lot of money, and you know, it's a lot. That being said, if they are going to implement newer tiers, that could definitely help. And it would be interesting also again to see what happens with Xbox Helix, especially if it is going to be a hybrid PC or a hybrid console in a sense. Then if, you know, they do that thing which we talked about where, you know, Xbox Live is no longer, you know, paid Xbox Live is no longer required,
Right.
Then in which case, you know, it kind of, at least on the Xbox side of things, kind of makes you wonder, all right, so then why am I paying extra for Xbox Ultimate if part of that was Xbox Live? Yeah. So it'll definitely be interesting to see what happens with that end. Additionally, I'm just like, all right, so you make some changes here and now and make things a better deal for, you know, for consumers. But on the other hand, though, it's not gonna last.
Yeah.
That's the problem with the whole live service, you know, software as a service thing. Idea is the fact that, okay, we get people in, but over time, especially for companies that have, you know, that are publicly traded, that have investors and stuff like that, they're going to want to see their profits go up year over year. So that means part of that is we're going to have to gradually find ways to monetize people who are using that service. And that part of that includes raising prices and possibly, you know, even maybe keep prices the same, but we might start removing features so that way it's cheaper on our end, so we don't really have to give out as much for the same amount of money. So over time, it's just going to get cruddier.
Yeah.
So it's just the nature of the beast. And of course, you know, we've seen that with Netflix, where something that cost $7 for, you know, the basic service now is like $20 a month. So that is essentially where Game Pass is heading. Even if they try to mitigate things now, it's just going to come back later on, and eventually we'll be getting to like $40, $50 for Game Pass, which is insane to say the least. But yeah, so maybe they're going to change something. Maybe this isn't just PR speak. If it isn't just PR speak, I think that's kind of good because it shows that something is going to happen. But in the long term, it's not going to last. And I mean, that's one reason why, while it's a good idea on paper and for people who want to try new games or something like that, you know, I think it's fine. But for people who just, you know, are like, oh yeah, I got Game Pass and it's awesome, it's the best thing, I'm just like, I'd rather just buy my games, own them, and not have to worry about, you know, hey, this game is being removed from Game Pass, or, you know, the price is going up, and you know, if I cancel my subscription, I lose access to these games.
Yeah.
You know, I would much rather, even if, you know, it might take me longer to, you know, get the same amount of games, or find games that might be interesting. But I could still do something like get a bundle from Fanatical, because they've got constant bundles, coming out, where I could get something I can choose what I want to, or just getting decent deals on stuff from Green Man Gaming or somewhere else. So I mean, like, there's no shortage of games I could get, and of course, just the ever expanding backlog is just proof enough that, hey, sure, you got Game Pass with all these games, I've got my backlog. So that's pretty much like having Game Pass right there as it is, and I don't have to pay a monthly subscription for that.
Yep.
But yeah, so I mean, it would be great if if Microsoft is able to find a way to provide better value for gamers. But like I said, in the long run, things are just going to go back to where we are right now, where it's like, okay, it's not a value anymore, and people want to cancel. So yeah, that's basically where I am.
All right. Well, I think that's all we have time to cover tonight, so let's get into our recommendations and dissuasions. Why don't you start us off?
All right, my recommendation is going... Oh, dear. Yeah, I thought I had that written down. All right, so my recommendation is going to be... I'm going to put this out there then, since didn't really have chances to write this down. I'll just say... I recommend 10 Commandments. It's a good, solid film. It'll take a while to get through, but I still think it's good. In fact, I would say, I mean, it's been years since I've seen it, but it's much better than when I remember last seeing it. And I feel like, to a degree, the second half went by faster than I remember it being. The pacing was a whole lot faster than I remember. But yeah, definitely solid film. Yeah, pretty good.
All right, good stuff. All right, well, my recommendations, of course, I'm definitely going to recommend Salt and Sanctuary and Salt and Sacrifice. Both are excellent. And yes, I'm still very early in Salt and Sacrifice, but it seems like it has a good number of quality of life improvements over the first game. And, of course, it's just a good Souls Troidvania. So if you like Souls games... I wouldn't play it if you don't like Souls games, or if you aren't willing to give them a try, but I would definitely play it if you either like them or are willing to give it a try. So there's that. I'm also going to recommend the Metal Gear Solid series in general, but more specifically either Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater or Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater. Either one is great. Delta, obviously, if you don't have a current console or a PC that's decently powerful, you're probably not going to be playing it, but you can play the original game, and yeah, it doesn't look as good, but I mean, the art style works really well, and it's still a really, really good game, so I definitely have to recommend that. Another recommendation I have, I ordered some and just got it last week and have been very pleased with the results. Ghost pepper powder. You can get dried ghost pepper that's, turned into a powder similar to like chili powder, cayenne pepper, that sort of thing. And it's a nice, very spicy alternative to just using cayenne or whatever. I added some to the Indian style curry that I made the other night, and it gave the amount of heat I was looking for, that I've been looking for a long time, because I just have... Well, for one, when I since I've been making it in like the past year or so, I haven't been including any spice with it, because that way all my family can eat it without any problems, and we can just add it on our own. But the problem is, like, when I want to add cayenne to it, it just doesn't give enough heat. I mean, I have to add quite a bit to give it enough heat. Whereas with the ghost pepper stuff, I just added a small amount of sprinkles, and it gave it just what I was looking for. So it was well worth it. Lastly, I'm pretty sure this is a new development, with Microsoft seeming to be backing off of Copilot quite a bit, but you can actually uninstall it rather than being forced to keep it on your system on Windows 11, and it doesn't get reinstalled by default. So I recommend uninstalling Copilot if you're using Windows 11, because you can uninstall it. And it may be in the future updates will force reinstall it, but at least so far, I installed it a couple days ago, uninstalled it a couple days ago, and it has not come back. So I'm very pleased about that. It actually makes Windows 11 much more worth it. Because I don't like Copilot. Like, I'll use it a little bit for work because sometimes it's a little bit helpful, but very minimal. So, yeah. But yeah, that's what I have for recommendations. So let's get into dissuasions.
All right. So my dissuasion is going to be, if you are going to, or if you want to buy a original Steam machine, just, because you're like, hey, I want to play this, I want to use it, I want to see what it's like, don't. Unless you are also primarily buying it for collecting purposes, just don't. Like, the hardware, while you can upgrade the CPU and you can upgrade the RAM, the GPU cannot be replaced or upgraded. So you are stuck with the GTX 860 mobile GPU, and that is just unfortunately not going to get you too far in a lot of games, especially newer games, and you've only got the 2 gigabytes of VRAM. So
yeah,
I would just be like I said, unless you're also getting it for collecting purposes, just don't. Yeah. It's not worth it. But that's all I've got.
All right. My dissuasion, this is actually from my wife because I couldn't remember what else I had, but is if you have to go to the DMV, don't forget to bring something to keep you occupied. Unfortunately, so my wife just needed to register our vehicle and get the taxes paid on it, the new van that we bought. And it ended up, of course, the first day she didn't have everything she needed, and it wasn't her fault. It was just there was a misunderstanding on a couple of things, and so she ended up having to come back today. But yesterday it was a long line, and she had to wait quite a while, and she didn't bring a book or anything with her, so she was just doom scrolling on her phone, which certainly made the experience less than pleasant. And then, of course, finding out that she would have to come back today, but at least it's taken care of now. So. Yeah, so make sure you bring something to keep you occupied when you're at the DMV. Or rather, don't forget to bring something to the DMV to keep you occupied. All right. Where can people find you?
They can find me on my channel. I am Xeracon. That's IAMXERACON. So youtube.com/@IamXeracon. No new content yet. I'm still getting together the one video that I've been teasing before. I've getting stuff to straight now, but it's going to be a while because I'm going to have to repeatedly uninstall and install different drivers, 3 different drivers, just for testing purposes. But once that's going, it'll just be a matter of getting through everything and then begin editing. So that'll be out when it's ready. As I said before, because of the misunderstanding with the Steam machine, the other project's canceled unless I decide, you know what, just for fun, I'll go ahead and do this comparison there. But we'll see what happens later on. And then I have my other channel, Justin's Bible Blog. That's at Justin's Bible Blog. I, for some reason, keep getting sidetracked with things, and things just get I keep getting distracted with stuff. So the video did not come out, even though I've essentially gotten pretty much more or less like the script and everything taken care of, and just need to get things recorded. So I just need to go ahead and get that out, and then once all that's done, then I'll finally upload it. So hopefully it's gonna be much sooner. And yeah, I feel bad for not putting this out, but yeah, that'll be out when it's ready. And that's everything.
All right, good stuff. All right, well, you can find me, of course, on my YouTube gaming channel at TheFrozenGamer87. I haven't put out anything new in a while, and I don't know when the next time is that I'll have something new recorded. Like, I'm hoping to do it soon, especially with the new camera and everything, but it's kind of a play-it-by-ear thing. But what I do have coming up this Friday, so that's Friday, April 17th, starting at 9 a.m. Central Time, I am going to be doing my 7th annual 24-hour live stream to raise money for through the Extra Life charity for my local children's hospital. That is Freeman Children's Hospital. And so I, once again, streaming for 24 hours. I am going to be doing some incentives for donations. First of all, per my wife's suggestion, if you donate $11.12, you can type in a comment in your donation a name that you want to suggest for our 4th baby that's coming in on November 12th, hence the 1112 amount for the donation. If you donate $25, you get to pick the next game I play on stream, and unless I'm like right in the middle of something, I can absolutely stop right then and there and start playing the next game, or at least, once it's installed, if it's not already installed. And if you don't want to look through my 651 Steam library games, there I will be posting a link in the chat that will show. It's basically a game randomizer called Pick Game that you can put in a person's username, and then you could just click random, and then it will bring up a game, and you can use that to pick something for me to play. Or you can suggest a game, and I can tell you if I have it, and if I have it, then I can play it. That works too. Then the $50, if you donate $50, every person who donates $50, I will be giving out 5 Steam keys for random games. It's going to be more indie games than not, but it's basically just a series of different game keys that I have, and you might find that there are some hidden gems in there. So there's that, and I have a lot of them to give out. But then the final tier, if you give $100, you get to pick a game, a digital game key of your choice for any standard edition of a game. And it can be on your preferred platform, whether it's on PC, on any platform on PC, or on a console of your choice. So some good incentives, I think, to hopefully get some more donations this year. And I'm looking forward to doing this stream. So once again, that's starting at 9 a.m. Central Time on my channel, The Frozen Gamer, at The Frozen Gamer 87 on YouTube. Now, moving past that, we also have the YouTube and Rumble channels for the podcast. On YouTube, that's at the Orange Box Podcast. On Rumble, it's not a custom URL, but you can still find us there. The video version of the podcast goes live on those channels every Friday at 7 a.m. Central Time, barring technical issues. And then the audio-only version goes live on all major audio podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Spotify, Deezer, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and others at 12 a.m. Central Time every Friday, as long as I don't forget to actually schedule it to go live like I have a couple of times. But if you want to contact us, you can send an email to the orangeboxpodcast@gmail.com. You can also send us, or you can also comment on the video version of the podcast, and we can read it on the show. Or you can even, if you have anything to say about the podcast, or about how annoying I am or whatever, you can always come into the 24-hour live stream, and chances are good. Well, for one, I'll be there, and there will probably be a good chunk of the time where Justin's there too. So in the chat, so you can comment at that point as well. But that is everything. So last chance. Any final thoughts?
No, sir.
All right. Well, I am the Frozen Gamer 87. That is I am Zeracon. We are the Orange Box Podcast. And until next time, make sure before you go knocking on someone's door that you have the right house, and you too can prevent people from playing at 30 frames per second. Orange Box Podcast, out.